So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolel, and I'm puzzling at the statue, this figure that we see here on the Atlas of Medieval Jewish History by Dr. HAIM BEINART. And this looks like a Mongol to me, but I'm not sure what it is. Very interesting that he chose this as the cover for his book. Now, we're moving along in this where we have here a map of the northeastern part of Spain. And the subject that we're looking at here is called the Collecta organization. Just a little quick map that he brought in here to let you know about something that's going on. And this is really the Christian part of Spain, which is the Kingdom of Aragon, the Kingdom of Catalonia, and Kingdom of Navarre. Now, up above is France, and you're thinking like this, from France, which is a Roman Catholic, is pushing down this way. The spread of Catholicism is moving through Spain in this way. At the same time as this is happening, the Kingdom of Aragon, at different places, had centers of this thing called the Collecta. And we're going to read just a little bit about it. Just to get an idea, here is the Kingdom of Castilla. At the time that we're writing this, or of the period that we're talking about, there was no Collecta organization in the Kingdom of Castile. Also in the Valencia, maybe there was something, but not much. So here we're talking about the eastern part, and let's just bring the camera down a little bit closer. Is that if you were able to look at this more closely, you would see that some of the cities that are the head community of the Collecta, where there was a very strong organization there, have this symbol. The head community of sub-collecta, so there were smaller, different heads, and it's not really clear exactly what the collecta did. And this just represents different places where there were Jews living in Spain at this time. Now, to give me an idea of what time period we're talking about, you have a document here, which I'm assuming comes from the period of the collecta. It's a signature of Jews on a bill of sale from the year 1248. The Magen David forms part of the witness signature. So there it is, right there. So this is something, and perhaps it has to do, he doesn't really tie it on to the Collecta organization, but assuming that we're in that time period of the 1200s. Now, let's go back and let's just see the little blurb that he has on it before we move on to the next section. And let me see if we get it up a little bit more. There we go. So he says, the Collecta was a regional organization of Jewish communities based on tax districts. So we understand that this is a taxing authority, I think. Its purpose was to create a single, central fund for a group of communities, in which a major community extended its authority over a number of smaller satellites. Now, there was a lot to be said there. First of all, it's a fund which is to be distributed between big and small communities. This organizational structure created a mutual alliance based not only on geographical proximity, but on a network of relations between large and small communities. Despite the dependence of the smaller communities, the larger were not always able to impose their will upon the smaller dependencies. Now, exactly how that works or what they were doing involved in it, but since he says it's a fund, and these are tax districts, so they must have collected money for communal efforts or communal needs in smaller communities and others. Now, let's just look down a little bit. As we saw the legend before, this means a major center of that symbol, means a major center of the collecta. And here we go, right here in the Kingdom of Aragon, and I think in Saragossa, is where the famous disputation between the kings, I can't remember, Pablo something, was a convert, a Jewish convert to Christianity, who argued with the Ramban. It was really a losing proposition over the course of years, actually 2 years or more, I'm not sure. And it took place in this place called Saragossa. So Saragossa was one of those centers. Now, there were other centers And here's another one which became known as pronounced as Barcelona. Barça has a great football team. And you see other places where there were many different communities that were all tied together from, say, this center or that center. I don't know if there's other ones, but the centers and the sub-centers. There's another one in Gerona. So you see, and another one here in Perignon. I don't know what that place is. It's called, can't pronounce it, Dior, I don't know. It's in the very northeast of Catalan. Okay, so that's the collective organization that exists in Spain. And in the next year, we're going to go through, we're going to go through the next phase into something completely different. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel. So here we have a different map. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel, reading. Actually, the survival of the Jews through the Middle Ages is a really amazing thing. Spiritual creativity, the Tosafists. Who are the Tosafists? What are we talking about? So this is a map, right? The map shows places with the Tosafists, and we'll try to look at some of these boxes here and get some of the names of the people, very important people, in another shir. He says that here you have England, and there is activity of this branch of scholars. Now, the scholars or the Tosafists are really people who are related to one particular scholar. And the schools that came along with him, the students that came along with him. That particular scholar is called Rebbe Shimon Yitzchaki, Shimon ben Yitzchak, who became known as his acronym for his name is Rashi. Everybody knows him as Rashi. His descendants, Rashi wrote an absolutely compelling, not compelling, it's really a root commentary on the Talmud, on the books of of what we call the Tanakh, of the prophets and the writings, the holy writings. He had commentaries on all these things, and they were great. And he picked up the tradition that they come from way before him, and he brought it to light for those who lived in where? In Ashkenaz. So this is an area of Ashkenaz. Okay, these people are Ashkenazi Jews rather than Sephardi Jews. Dr. Henry, can get his name, the name is blanket on me, but the commentaries say that the Ashkenaz Jews are really descendants of slaves, to some extent, of a mixture of slaves from the Italian peninsula after the Roman conquest, and a mixture of, and we've seen here, that Charlemagne actually brought great rabbis from Babylonia to France to support the Jewish communities that were working in France at that time. It's an amazing thing. So here we have the beginning of the Ashkenaz Jewry. It's in the northern part of Europe. Here we have Austria, Bohemia, right? Germany is all this area. Ashkenaz is another word for Germany, and France. So in Rabbi Wein's series, he talks about France, and the France is the French Rhineland, because it goes over here all the way over to the Rhine River, and this was a mixture area and still is. Let's go over the actual writing that we have here from Dr. BEINART to describe this period. So we're really talking about Rashi, the descendants of Rashi, and the development of really great Jewish scholarship at this time. He said, despite the bitter and burdensome trials in the diaspora, the spiritual creativity of the Jewish people never ceased. Their spheres of creativity were diverse, and their contribution to the world of ideas of the Middle Ages and the subsequent generations was great. In Spain, Jews participated in the translation of from Arabic to Latin of classical works of philosophy. Thus, they served as a bridge between the culture of the ancient world and that of the Middle Ages. Because understand that the Jews are a product of the ancient world. We're still here. The specifically Jewish aspects of this creativity had many facets, ranging from biblical exegesis, which means learning the core principles from one another, to Kabbalah, which is the secrets of Torah. Jewish sages and scholars in various countries added their contribution to the spiritual edifice of the people. And in a few European countries, between the 11th and the 14th centuries, their achievements were unique. If one country was famous for having the great biblical scholar Rashi, another was well known for being the cradle of Kabbalah, and still another for being the home of philosophical and ethical literature. All these achievements became precious aspects of the Jewish people. An examination of the intellectual climate in which the Tosafos, now, so this is our topic here. Tosafos means Tosefos, is like an additions, collections of comments on the Talmud, were compiled, reveals similar scholarly activity in the field of Latin literature of the Middle Ages. It's very interesting that the same environment, the same atmosphere that produces scholarship in the Gentile world also allows for the scholarship to take place in the Jewish world. Roman and canon law and Christian biblical exegesis, despite the differences between and the barrier that separated Jews and Christians, they were nevertheless both affected by the same intellectual climate. They not only confronted one another in religious disputations, but also met in order to learn from one another. Christian commentators were aided by Jews in deciphering difficult biblical passages, and the phrase Hebreus meus deceit, a Jew told me, which apparently is frequently found in the writings of Andreas, the pupil of Abelard, in the 12th century. So he says so you see the collaboration. Although the Tosafos were a collective compilation, like the Mishnah and Talmud, which are also compilations of ideas and rules and laws, nevertheless one can discern different methodologies and local distinctions between those Tosafos that were in France and those in Germany and England and other places. Rashi's pupils expanded, elaborated, developed, and completed his commentary, ushering in a new period of exegesis. The transitional period is represented by the Shemaya of Troyes. Now this looks like Troyes, but I have a French friend told me it's pronounced Troyes. Rashi's responses. So this is Rashi, and also Simcha ben Shmuel of Vitry. However, the most significant work was done by Rashi's two sons-in-laws. Rashi didn't have sons; he had daughters. And therefore he had sons-in-law. So one was called Judah ben Nathan, which would be Yehuda ben Natan, also known as the Rivan, the father of a family of scholars who checked Rashi's Talmud commentary. In other words, Rashi was revolutionary for the Ashkenaz Jews in terms of making it possible to understand what was going on in the Talmud. So he brought in a tremendous breadth to it. But then his grandsons and his sons-in-laws began picking it apart. They added glosses to it and even composed independent commentaries for most of the Talmud tractates. So he says he frequently used the commentaries of the sages of Mainz and did not refrain from criticizing Rashi. The other son-in-law, Meir ben Shmuel of Ramarupt, was sometimes known as the father of the rabbis, because his sons were Shmuel ben Meir, who's known today in the Talmudic circles as the Rashbam, Isaac ben Meir, Yitzchak ben Meir, and Jacob ben Meir, which are Rabbeinu Tam. And then there's Rabbeinu Tam, who called his father's commentaries the Tosafos. That's where the name came from. So we're going to let's read one more paragraph, and then we'll see if we can stop there and then pick it up in another share. These sages witnessed the persecutions and massacres of French Jewry during the Crusades and their expulsion from Ile-de-France in 1182. Now, get this back again. Again, the people who are commentating on this, the people who are learning, are living in an environment of the Crusades. So let's take the glory away from the Crusades. These were animals who were butchering Jews wherever they found them. Not only that, stealing their money and raping their wives and their daughters. This is Hamas in Crusader form. So the Jews were going through this, and at the same time they were going through this, they were writing these tremendous, tremendous works of holiness. So he says, and ultimately the Jews were expelled from France in 1182. It was they who issued the call to emigrate to the Holy Land. In the towns of France and Ashkenaz, they attracted many pupils and then continued their method of learning. And it is, therefore, not surprising that Moses ben Yaakov of Kusi was able to complete his monumental work, Sefer Mitzvahs Gadol, so which means the book of the tremendous commandments, of the great commandments, of the great commandment, so which became a basic reference book for the study of the Halakha, which is the Jewish laws. So this is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we'll hopefully get another shir and be able to see some more of these maps. So for those of you who may be interested, we're going to go through a little bit here some of the places that took place at this time in the 1100s, the 1200s, in the midst of the Crusades, in the midst of the expulsion of the Jews from France, and their movement to England. And this takes place at the time of good old Richard the Lionhearted, who basically Robin Hood robbed the Jews, stole all the money from the Jews, and was able to redeem Richard the Lionhearted, who had been captured, nothing new, kidnapped and ransomed, and caused the Jews, of course, to have to leave again. A very, very, very difficult time. In the meantime, over here, coming back again into France, we had this tremendous, tremendous growth. In places called Touquet, Falaise, he says all of these different names. But all of these places where great scholars took place, and there were yeshivas in all these places in Paris, right? Clisson, Chinon, all of these different places. I don't know how to pronounce them really, but I just want to give you an idea of all the places within France where the Tosafos had spread their teachings. So all of this, like I said before, is going on in a time of a bloodbath for the Jews. Over here in Ashkenaz, in Germany, what's called Germany today. Let's see if we can get that off there. There we go. And you have all these people, different places. Mainz was a great community. Cologne, right? Bonn. All of these times along the Rhine River, because these are prosperous areas, places where Jews inspire. Now, not to counting the fact that the Crusades came through this area also, and maybe we'll get back into that, but I think we saw what we needed to. These different names: Friedberg, Munzenberg, Rothenburg. So you see a lot of this is Jewish people's names. Würzburg, Bamberg, all of these places of the school, the scholarships of the Tosafos. Now, let's continue on with the reading. Let's see, I guess we're continuing on, or how did they get to be so long? Okay, so technically I get a little bit confused, and I think I didn't save the last one, and this is the end of the last one, but it goes pretty well with the idea of the Tosafos. And we'll pick up the next year, we'll pick up some more of what's playing in France and Germany with the Tosafos.